Hi there, welcome to the new Lessons in Life, Dive in Life episode 2. And today we'll be talking about LFOs. I'll dive right into it. I have an operator here, which is a synthesizer in Ableton. And synthesizers are known for having LFOs on them. LFO stands for low frequency oscillator, which means it's actually a tone generator, signal generator, and because it's under 20 hertz, we can't hear it. So that means that actually it's the same as a normal oscillator as you would find them on synthesizers, but then too low to be heard. So therefore, we can use the signals from an LFO, as you see here, which has the same thing as a normal oscillator, sine, square, triangle, etc. We can use them to control other parameters, for instance a filter. So if I have this LFO, I can decide that it goes to the filter, so I turn it on. And if I then play a note and open the amount, it starts controlling this filter. And you can't see it, but the filter is moving up and down. I'll show you by using this LFO. And I'll map the LFO to this frequency guy. And then you see the same thing happening. We have a rate control also on this one. And these are the funny things actually you can do with LFOs. It's super nice. It just makes you not having to use your hands basically. So also within synthesizer you usually can control also the pitch of a sound. So I turn the filter off. Now I'm sending the LFO to the pitch of the, so that means actually that the tuning of the oscillator that is generating the tone, that's this oscillator, is being controlled by this LFO. So now and you can make it go really slow and do all kinds of stuff with it. So this is basically what an LFO does. It's a signal generator that controls a certain parameter of a synthesizer. Well, you also have it on different different processors, like the filter, for instance, of Ableton. You always have this little LFO section, and you'll find LFOs on numerous of devices and the things in DAWs, and I use it a lot to keep the music very interesting. You don't need anything to do by hand. You can just you don't have to automate it. You can just set an LFO and have it go a certain rate. If you click here, you can also put it up onto the beat so that it's like quantized to the beat. I like to have it a bit more random, so it's not really exactly on the beat. Otherwise, I still get all the linear results that I will get otherwise. And now it's just very handy to have it like this, so I can actually control things and have things coming in and out in volume or filter them up and down while focusing on other stuff when recording a track. So I made this track. You can listen to it for a bit. It's not a track, it's a loop for now, but you can hear lots of stuff is going on. Here we go. So that's a bit of like a drum and bass track, and I started it out with this pad sound. I'll turn off the filter. This is like the atmosphere that I build it up. It's like just a loop of a pad sound which just goes on. And to keep it a bit more interesting, I put this filter on. And as you can hear, it's like going back and forth in the filter. If I turn off this LFO, it stays on the same rate, because this LFO is mapped to this rate. So that means that I can actually have this going faster and slower and faster and slower, because the rate is determining what hertz the low frequency oscillator is. And it will create a faster moving filter or a slower moving filter, and this way the track keeps a bit more interest to it. Also, if you see the LFO here, it has the same options: sine wave, random, square, all these different waves. which you can actually see in another sound I have. Let me just get this guy in as well. Some noise. Here's some head, and let me solo that on itself. This tambourine, it's not a hi-hat, but a tambourine. No, it's almost the same. Potato. What is it? Tomato. Here you have the tambourine, and as you can see, this attack is being controlled by this LFO. So I've mapped it to this attack, and I'm using a sine wave, and it's slowly controlling this attack. And with the offset, I can choose where it starts. So if I move it all the way up, we don't hear anything anymore. It just it's too far. So you have to find like a sort of a sweet spot. And with depth, you can control how far it will go. See, now it goes a bit further than when I had it on this setting. And this makes the tambourine goes a bit more softer in the attack, and then a bit more punchier, and then a bit more softer, and that creates a lot of interest in music. So then also I have this guy here, and I've done a lot of stuff here. As you can see, I've done like a redopter, which is one of my favorite distortion units from D16 group. Definitely a recommendation. A vocoder, which carries noise. I could do an episode definitely solo on that, because it's like a super sick way to get like really gritty kind of drums if you get some drums to it. So I have here this loop that I loaded in. And if I turn the whole thing off, it's just like a drum beat, but it sounds like this because of this vocoder. And as you can see, this release is going up and down. But it goes very, very random. So you can see that this LFO, which is mapped to the release time of the vocoder, actually has a random. So the signal that I'm using is a random signal. So it's like morphing from sine into like saw, maybe really quickly. It doesn't even look like something like a saw or sine, but it's just very cool to use this stuff to create really random results. And I really like the way of the flow of this loop in the mix. If you hear it, so it's way different than if I would have it like. So I like to create some randomness with this, and that's what you can do with LFOs. It's like one of the most used things in production, I think, to keep sounds interesting. You can just drag them in an LFO in Ableton. You'll find it here under LFO. If you go to your Mac's devices, you can have it as an audio effect and just drag it in like this. And you can even map an LFO to an LFO. So if I want to map this guy to this depth, that's okay. Then I can duplicate it and map this guy to the offset of this one. So you can create crazy results just by using LFOs in your tracks. And as well, your tracks will become way more interesting. You can use it on volume, on attacks and releases, whatever you think, and try it out. It will make your music really way more interesting than if everything is very static. It maybe also depends on what kind of music you're making, but yeah, it's a good thing to know. So if you got inspired by this, Google LFOs and learn more about it, and start using them in your productions.